Stories have the power to transport us to different worlds, evoke strong emotions, and connect us to one another. They are an essential part in our lives, and the ability to tell a good story is a skill that can be developed and refined. Whether you are an inspiring writer, a public speaker, or just someone who wants to improve their communication skills, this video is for you. In this video, I will show you 4 steps that you need to take in order to become the best storyteller in your environment. Get ready to unlock your imagination, captivate your audience, and leave a lasting impression with your stories. So grab a pen and paper, sit down, and let's dive into the world of storytelling. But first, let's talk about why you should even become a master storyteller. You see, there are tons of reasons why you should develop storytelling skills. Once you master storytelling, you will become the most interesting person in your room. People will love to listen to you. They will see you as an interesting person with a lot of life experience. Also, storytelling is not just a random skill. It is one of the most important and one of the most overpowered techniques of all time. It doesn't matter if you're an engineer, a teacher, or even a student. You can use storytelling basically everywhere and every time you want. It is really a universal skill that allows you to affect other people's minds and their way of thinking and perceiving things. It is so powerful that thanks to a good story, you can literally sell anything to anyone, you can teach anything, you can even manipulate others. But that's kind of a dark side of storytelling, and we won't go deeper into this. But yeah, there are basically tons of reasons why you should develop your storytelling skills. And now, when it comes to steps that you need to take in order to become a great storyteller, there are 4 of them. The first one is the process of gathering your own stories. I mean, it's pretty logical that if you want to tell stories, you need the stories to tell. When it comes to the number of stories you should have, I guess the best for you would be to have 50 stories from the past 2 years of your life. But where can you find good stories? Let me tell you. First of all, you have to understand that a good story is a universal one. I mean, what's the point of having a story about your broken arm when it brings no value to your listeners? Your story about your broken arm can be a good story, but you have to tell it in the right way. Because a good story needs to bring some value to your audience. If you are speaking about the power of determination, for example, and during your speech you'll tell something like, once I've broken my arm, it hurt, but it's fully recovered now and I feel happy about it. I mean, that brings no value to your listeners, right? But if you would use your story about your broken arm and tell it in the right way, then it would make a really great story. Let me give you an example. I've broken my arm once. It was terrible because I knew I have to finish my book by the end of the week. But thanks to my enormous determination, I was able to finish that book with just one hand, even though it took me 2 times more time. I was determined, so I spent 2 times more time writing this book, but at the end of the day, I was able to finish it. That shows the true power of determination. Now, the same story brought much more value. So that's what the second step of becoming a great storyteller is about. You have to find some good stories from your life, or create some if you're creative enough, and make them good, universal stories that bring some value to your audience. Now, when you have those stories and you are sure that they are universal and engaging, it's time to add some details. A lot of details. That's because the more details you have in your story, the easier it is for your listener to visualize it. And you want your story to be easy to visualize, because this will massively increase the chance that your audience will remember that story. If they will remember your story, there is a great chance that they will pass it even further to the family members or friends, for example. Others might get curious and ask, who told you that story? And then you can gain even more fans, even more followers, subscribers, listeners, whatever it is, just like this, for free. Anyways, let me give you an example of a story with details and without details, so that you can see the difference. Let's start with the story without details. The boy was walking in the forest. Suddenly, he heard some strange noise. He got scared because that noise came from behind. He turned around and he saw a monster. Not really engaging, right? And you can't even imagine such a story. You hear it, but you are not seeing any images in your mind. Now, let's add some details. One day, the boy was walking in a dark, foggy forest. It was late already, there was no sunlight. The big, dark trees and silence created a scary atmosphere. The boy was frightened. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise behind him. His hair stood on end. He felt his legs turn to jelly. He didn't want to do it, but involuntarily, he began to slowly turn around. His heart was beating faster and faster. When he turned around, he froze. A huge monster stood in front of him. His head was crooked. He had no eyes, but he had a huge mouth that smiled horribly at the boy, revealing big, sharp, and terrible teeth. That's an example of a story with details. I bet it was much easier for you to visualize the situation that I was talking about right now than with the previous story. So now I think you can tell the difference between story with details and without details. That means we can move on to the fourth step, which is all about learning how to tell your stories in the right way. You should focus on telling your stories in a way that actually affect other people's minds. And what I mean by that is you should speak confidently. You should adjust the tempo of your speaking. You should slow down when the story action slows down, speed up when the story action speeds up. You should emphasize important words, just like I did a moment ago with the word suddenly. You should avoid a monotonous tone, and you shouldn't speedrun your story. Applying those things to your way of speaking is basically everything you need to do in order to tell your story in the right way. Now, all of these steps take time. You have to spend some time to find the best stories. You have to spend some time to tweak them, add some details, change them a little bit so that they are more universal, and you have to learn how to tell them in the right way. So, be patient. Focus on those 4 steps that I've introduced to you in this video and practice as frequently as you can. And I can guarantee you that you will become a great storyteller, even the master of storytelling. Oh, and if you're interested in public speaking and you would like to learn how to become a master public speaker, just simply scroll down and click the second link in the description. It is the link to the public speaking course, the best public speaking course that exists out there and probably the only one that you will ever need to take in your entire life. By purchasing this course, you really are supporting my channel. Thanks!